Yo, this is Zach Scott here with another quick source filmmaking tutorial. Tonight I'm just going to be looking at composition for film, and I'm going to go through some of the lenses here, show you what they mean and why these are the lenses that they are, and just kind of run through a couple of quick shots and setups and give you some basic ideas of how to tell meaning through camera, and also how to manipulate scale and positioning through camera. Let me preface this by saying that if you've never read anything about rule of thirds or all that, I highly recommend finding some quick tutorials. I'll try and find one and throw it in the description of this video. Rule of thirds is something you just gotta fucking know if you want to make films. It's the most basic shit there is, and it'll save you a ton in composition here. Also, I'm not a certified professional in this, but I know a thing or two. But if you really want to check out some great stuff, look for the Hollywood Camera Work DVD set. If you can find that floating around, I know it's a bit pricey, but that'll be the absolute best thing I've ever found for learning up about camera moves and basic blocking through scenes. So tonight I'm just going to quickly look through a couple of quick setups. I'm going to show you a couple of ways you can frame a single character, and then a couple of ways you can frame two characters, and just different ways to convey meaning. So I've got a little setup here with just a normal heavy and scout and spy here, just standing around. I'm not even going to bother with animations because really all we're looking at is like positioning of eye lines and all that stuff. And so we can quickly just start knocking out story here just by the positioning of the camera. But before I go into that, I want to get into these lenses. So these lenses here, you may have seen them kicking around. I think Jimmer Lins did a tutorial on them, but I don't think he talked much about what they are. But these are basically the prime lenses that you will see in film. So you got your 50mm lens, your 35mm, 24, 85, 105. The real meaty ones that you're going to use a lot are the 85, the 50, and the 35mm. And these basically correspond to your most common close, medium, and wide shots. So if you were shooting a wide shot, you might go for the 35mm, come out here, pull back a little bit, and so we got the heavy over here, and we got the scout over here, and we can see a lot of them. But if we want to take the shot and get up close on the heavy, but keep it over the shoulder, we'd go to an 85, and now we have a very different shot. But the reason it's nice to use these lenses is because they actually correspond with real-world lenses. These are your primes, generally. So if you were to buy a non-adjustable lens, chances are it would come in like a 35mm, 50mm, 85mm, and all that. So they're super common. I have all these lenses for my own camera at home, so they're pretty great. 50mm is my favorite. But yeah, they shake out like that. Also, just a quick note, the millimeter denotes the size of the aperture, and so the smaller the number, the wider the lens is going to be. And so the larger the number, the tighter it's going to be. So this 105 is going to be real zoomed in. I think if you check out the FOV, it's like, that is not a useful number. God damn it. Yeah, I hate these sliders because they don't actually show you, they just show you a value of 1 to 0. They don't show you the literal value. But if you were measuring field of view diagonally, 85 would be around 23.3 degrees, 50 would be about 39.9. 35 degrees would be about 54 degrees, or 35mm, sorry. And, like, it kind of goes up and down. I think a 105 is around, it's either 15 degrees or 18 degrees, plus a couple decimal points. But that's all technical shit. I just want to kind of show you how we can frame this stuff up. Like I said, if you really haven't screwed around with framing too much, rule of thirds is your friend. It is goddamn great, and it's basically you want to break your shots up along the thirds lines of the frame. So you want to position your characters along the left or right thirds. You want to get the horizon line along the lower thirds or top thirds, depending on what kind of shot you're doing. It's really basic stuff that you'll see all over the place. You see it on this old guy, you see it on this bird, you can see it on this Batman shot, and really it's common stuff. This is stuff artists have been using for a long time, so I'm sure there's hundreds of great tutorials out there. But yeah, so I'm quickly going to roll through this stuff. So we got this heavy. Let's say we want to make this heavy come up and talk to the scout. Let's say we want to frame a close-up. If this heavy is just entering the scene and he's dominant, I'm going to use a medium lens, but I'm going to get kind of close. So what this does is it gives us a nice full face shot, and he's spread up along the line, and we got him. We got the background nicely lined up with the thirds. He's on this third, and we're kind of close. If we get him kind of centered, it's a nice lone close-up shot. He can talk and emote and be good in this shot. We always want to watch our head space. Either give him a little bit of headroom up here, or knock it in and cut him off around the eyebrows. Those are both great shots to use. But we can get more into it with this. Like, this is just a simple, pretty neutral, friendly close-up. But we can very easily just bring the camera down and knock it up, and suddenly this heavy is a lot more heroic. This heavy is intimidating. He's towering over us. Just by bringing the camera down a few degrees, we've totally changed the language of this shot. We can do the same knocking it up and looking down on him, and now he's a little more subservient. He's a little more, like, he's more neutral in this shot, less in control of things. We can knock it back, and the same principles apply here. If I grab the, let's see, 35 mil for a little bit of a wide. We got this heavy. Now he's a big dude in the frame. He's about to bust some stuff up, or he's kind of neutral. He's just standing around listening to things. And you can start to see how we can knock out these subtle emotional changes just by varying the angle of the camera. The same way we can do this with not just the angle up and down, but around the character as well. So we're pretty close on with his eye line, so we're pretty in tune with what this heavy is thinking. But as we kind of go around to the side to a more profile shot, it's less like we're less in communication with what this heavy's doing. The shot becomes more about what's the heavy looking at, what's over there. If we push it over here, it gets even more extreme, as now this heavy is looking at something that we're not even included in because of all this empty space over here. This heavy is looking off into a second part of the screen that we don't have any information about, potentially. And if we Dutch it down, the effects continue to pull out. If we go to a full profile, ooh, that works out nice. If we go to a full profile, we again get more interesting emotional conveyance through the shot. And you can start to see how we can build out a cinematic language just from where we position the camera. This is all some high-level stuff, but I hope that you're getting a little bit of it. Sorry, just drinking a bit of beer. Let's see. So let's pull this out. Let's say we want to do an over-the-shoulder with that scout. So I'm just going to knock this down to... let's do an over-the-shoulder medium shot. Actually, let me quickly run you through the basic shot scales that we're going to have in most film. And keep in mind, these are all just simple conversational shots. In filmmaking, there are no right or wrong answers. Obviously, it's all up to what you want to do, but these are proven setups that tend to work and look good. So you're going to move out as you go in shot scale, from the super close up here where we're just cutting them off at the eyebrows, to the medium close where we have the heavy and a little bit of the neck, or maybe just pull out a bit and cut them off at the nips, maybe. Pulling out to the medium where we have him cutting off... Oops. Pulling out to the medium where we're cutting him off at about the waist. So we got a lot of breathing room here. He has a ton of room to emote, but he's still nicely framed. We're not worrying about anything down below. Pulling way out to the 35 where we can get the medium wide, where we're cutting him off about the knees. And it's important to note these are just great places to cut them off. And then we go straight out to the full wide. Full wides are tricky. They depend a lot on what your background environment is, because at this point the character isn't the only factor in the scene. It really depends a lot on where you're placing the character as well when you get this wide. So usually you can find these tricky setups if you're only looking at the character placement. A couple things to note though: try to avoid having the character stand directly on, and always watch your headspace potentially. And you can see here just a little bit of moving the camera, and suddenly this heavy looks fucking tiny compared to the Scout. And these are things you just want to be aware of, because you can really control the messaging super strongly just by varying up cameras. So we got this Scout. Like, let's even just go into that. Let's quickly go into that with the size of the Scout and the Heavy. Just by using a slightly wide camera, we make the Heavy small. The Heavy could, in this scene, potentially be taking orders from this much larger Scout. Or we can go the opposite way, drop in the 85, kind of zoom in, and now the Heavy and the Scout are about on equal terms. They're about equal size, even though we know in our hearts of hearts that that Scout is pretty small. But if we just pull that back a little bit more, so that we see more of the Scout, the Heavy still takes up, with this close lens, the Heavy still takes up quite a bit of the frame, and the Scout takes up relatively less, so the Heavy's starting to get back some of that size. And so if we push the lens in even further and pull out a little bit more, this Heavy is really starting to dwarf the Scout. If we go up a little bit more, the Heavy really kind of kicks in, and now he's just looming over this guy. Even though we haven't actually changed the position of any of our characters, these are all just screwing around with the camera to change the apparent size. You can go even further. If I knock this up to a crazy tight shot, oh man, is that really where it caps out? Hang on. Minimum. Let's go down to, I don't know, 5. If I go into an insanely close 5, I can make this Heavy just look absolutely huge. Man, the camera really moves slow at this speed. But yeah, I can make this guy just gigantic. I got a wall in the way, but you can start to see we're just screwing around with FOV, and we're dramatically changing the size and shape of these characters. So let's go around to the other side. Let's check out this Scout and this Spy. So I'm going to go to a simple 50mm lens, just because it's great. And we've got this Scout. And again, we have this Scout here. And if we film just above the eye line, get them on equal footing almost. There we go. Get them on equal footing. You notice I got a couple things lined up in this shot. I got the eye lines of the Scout and Spy lined up. I got yeah, that's about it, really. Just that one thing. But I got these guys standing here. They're potentially together. If I knock this down, if I bring the camera out and down and point it up a little bit, now the Scout is way more dominant, and the Spy is just a passive guy in the background. Or I can probably go the other way and get the Spy looming in the background as well, potentially appearing to command the Scout as well. It's trickier to do something like that. But, like, you can quickly see how we can change, just looking at these two characters, the importance of them in the scene. And all we're doing, really, is messing with our camera position and our framing itself. We pull back, we get the wide. We got this Heavy. Again, we can mess a lot with size here. By putting these guys really low, framing up the Heavy's fist, get a really low angle. This Heavy clearly looks like he's about to beat the shit out of these Scouts. Whereas, if we get more of a over the shoulder, this Heavy is just going to tell something to these Scouts. And again, we're just changing the visual language through the positioning of the camera. We can do a lot here. We got this Spy here. He's pretty stupid looking. Man, I've kind of gone through a lot here. We can do a little bit with changing the positioning of the characters in the frame itself. So, as you can see here, we have this Heavy, and he's pretty close to the center, and then this Scout is right on the other thirds line. And so they're pretty, I guess friendly would be the right word. They're pretty friendly here, but as we come around, we get the same shot, but we put a lot more distance between them, and suddenly there is a bit of a gulf between them, metaphorically and physically. And these are all just... It's a lot of high-level concepts, but you got to trust me that as you start to get through these things, these messages will show through if you put them in there. And it's all just cinematic language, framing, and again, just playing around with the camera, playing around with your FOVs to get the proper things, proper messages going. I think this is a good stopping point. I've kind of run through a lot of the basic shit, probably super fast, so sorry if I lost any of you guys, but, you know, there's a lot to go through, and camera work itself is a totally imprecise art. You can be very, very strict and very head-on if that's the shot you want, or you can be totally loosey-goosey, Dutch the camera, and go crazy. But the point I want to make is, as long as you put meaning in a shot, it's fine. It's right. Somebody can criticize your camera work for being imprecise, but as long as you have some sort of meaning, they can't talk shit. If you know in your heart of hearts that you shot something specifically with a reason behind it, then pretty much anything is okay, as long as you're deliberately making these choices in your head. And I'm just trying to give you the tools to do that. So, yep, that's a lot of shit. I know I got a little bit preachy at the end, but you know, whatever. Take it easy, guys.